They lost the money because they bought a house.
I believe that it was like housing funding because they were living in a certain kind of housing. But if you move on up, like now, maybe you don't get that housing fund. I'm sure they're getting plenty of money per kid for like various other programs, but maybe that one program in particular is no more. Yeah, I don't even know how many they've had at this point. It's idiocracy is coming, folks. I promise you. I promise.
We're on its way.
How many do you think? 6, 7, 8?
I don't know. It's like
they're in their litter.
Yeah. Like I don't know. I'm kidding. I don't know how many there are. I think it's 2 or 3 or 4.
What's the most amount of children that, in your view, is acceptable if you are not Amish or like farming? I
think so. So here's my answer. I think you can have one child per $150,000 a year of combined household income, and anything more is probably not a great idea. And I'm talking about modern money, right? Like you go back 10, 20, 30 years, it's less, right?
Well, it's the opposite of that, bud. The poorest people have the most kids.
What I'm saying is if you have more children
$100,000 a year per kid.
Roughly, yeah. I think that if you exceed that, then you have done something that is inappropriate. I think that you have been selfish. I think that you are a cat lady. I think
most people don't ever make $150K a year.
That's only one and a half kids.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Combined housing
150
combined housing, one kid per 100,000 combined housing income. That's what you get. That seems fair to me.
I think that's reasonable.
Most people don't make 100,000 household income. Like that's way above.
Really? Most people don't combine. Then they don't get to have kids. Then those kids. Then they're clearly not ready to have a kid, are they?
You think the average household income is $100,000?
That's not what I asked. I said, do you think they're ready to have a kid if their combined household income isn't $100,000 yet?
Definitely. Yeah, there are some people
they're ready.
Yeah, I mean,
they're financially ready. They're
financially they'll never be as ready as they should be, but that's kind of the consequence of a fucked up system where like they don't have the opportunity.
Well, we're not
to make
changing
as much
the
as they
system
should.
here, Taylor. We're all right. We're not rewriting the code. We're not going to live under socialism and get that baby all of its shots out of magic money. You got $100,000 per kid. That kid's gonna. You know how much diapers fucking cost? I don't, and I don't ever want to fucking know. All right. You know how much shots cost?
I want to agree with Kyle.
Don't know.
People say kids are expensive. I didn't think kids were expensive at all, right? Like diapers cost fucking slightly more than nothing. If you can't afford diapers, you can't afford children. Baby clothes. Now this is old. This is like 20 years ago. I was fucking shocked how cheap baby clothes are. If I buy a pair of pants, they're like $40. You can get a whole goddamn sailor costume for your little boy for like $9. Oh my God.
They always make a big deal out of it.
That was like a big deal. A fucking onesie is like 75 cents, and that's what fucking babies wear all the goddamn time. Babies are cheap as fuck. If you can't afford formula, diapers, and some onesies, get your shit together. You're not even holding down a McDonald's job. But
okay, Woody's 100% right there. Like if you can't afford to feed and clothe your child, get it together. Like,
and look,
it's the size of like a bag of potatoes. Like just put something on it.
Where the equation changes if you have a sick kid, that's expensive as fuck. But normal kids,
I'm not saying we should like make it a law against it or anything, or we should punish those people. But you should know that if you haven't achieved that, if you don't have that, and there's other ways of achieving that rather than having a traditional sort of household where that's you and your wife live here and you combine for 100,000. You could live at home with your mother and have like a 3-generational household if your mother's okay with that. And a lot would be. I bet there's tons of like parents out there who would love for the grandchildren to be under the same roof. And like, if that's your case and everybody's like kumbaya on that, then like do it. That might
commonplace.
Might make more sense to me
that's more normal than what we do. Like most countries, like Arab countries, Italy, like Mediterranean,
that's more stable and more loving. Like having the grandmother there to be like, oh, whoa, don't hold the baby like that. Like she's already raised babies. I don't know. It seems like having someone who's done all that stuff there to help you out, and like the financial security of like the couple and like that other generation there. Presumably this place is just about paid off. You know, like we got 3 generations under the roof. But you know what I'm getting at? Like that sounds sound.
You're just like a piece of shit grandpa who's like in that, and you like get the 3rd mortgage like as you're about to die. It's like, sorry everyone.
Good luck.
Grandpa wanted to get his dick wet in Vegas. The big shit to the great beyond.
I want to be buried in a gold coffin, so I'm liquidating everything. I'm gonna be
You can't take it with you.
Yeah, he's
in my will. I requested that none of you go to college.
I paid off all your favorite universities to never take you ever.
Because you're a bunch of losers,
and you always will be, thanks to your grandpa.
And you always will never measure up to what I was.
So yeah, I don't know. That just makes sense to me. I've given that no thought. I just made that up sitting here. But like 100,000 a kid seems fair. Like look, if I were planning,
isn't that fun when you do that on the show? When like you start a conversation and you're like, I don't think people should be able to have kids unless they make $100,000 a kid, and then suddenly you have to now defend this point as though you're like,
you know what?
Well, actually, it's like something that we just made up.
So that's how real debate works. In a real debate, you show up and they're like, all right, you will be arguing.
Yeah, it's true.
You will be arguing pro
N-word.
Parents being disallowed to have more than one children per 100,000 a year gross income under penalty of law. You are pro that point. You're against that point. And it doesn't matter how you personally feel. You have to argue the point. That's how real debate works.
Yeah.
Right. So
dude,
like, I don't know, having a little improvisation and like falling into a conversation like that's just a fun little mental exercise. Right. So
when we argue about any politics or debate worthy thing, we should always have to debate the opposite side, because that's the only true way to discern.
That's what I've been doing here for a decade.
Yes. And it's what I do intermittently when it's funny, you know. Depending on what other people's positions are, I form my own opinion.
Yeah, I've made fun of my giant and tiny dick throughout the years. Whatever's funnier at the moment.
Whatever the moment says. That's the way it always goes. Is the nature of a shitty, stupid podcast.